said, my name's Anthony Ashford. We're starting a practice, Ashford DiMartino PC, that's primarily focusing on first-party claims. First thing you need to understand is what is underwriting. Underwriting is the function of evaluating the subject of insurance. The underwriter must apply company standards or underwriting guidelines to each applicant, and based upon these standards, ascertain whether the application represents an acceptable risk. Understand that underwriting is the foundation of the insurance transaction process and is the foundation of the relationship between the insurance company and the insured. Common underwriting factors, these are important things to understand because these are things that will be found in the underwriting file. The value of the property. This is an extremely important point because as if you have a total loss or if you have a coinsurance issue, within the underwriting file is typically a replacement cost estimate. So the value of the property oftentimes is either determined by the insurance company or accepted by the insurance company, and the insured is charged premiums based upon that. Condition of the property. In the standard residential underwriting file, you may find photographs of the property, which may become important if there's a total loss. Additionally, in commercial policies, you'll have underwriting reports that will be an inspection of the property. It can become really critical, and I'll explain that to you regarding some of the biggest cases that I've had to date. The underwriting file has been the most critical aspect of the litigation process and has taken claims that probably had zero to little settlement value to over 7 figures in settlement as a result of the underwriting file. Construction material used in the property, potential hazards surrounding or within the property, age of the property, use of the property, security measures and other loss control measures associated with the property, upkeep of the property, location of the property, current insurance in force on the property, and prior losses associated with the property. Common underwriting file contents. Replacement cost calculations, residential and commercial. Extremely important if there is an issue of coinsurance or there's a claim that the property's underinsured and there's an attempt to apply a coinsurance penalty, the replacement cost calculations in the policy or in the underwriting file are critical. Similarly, if you have a total loss, the replacement cost calculation is extremely valuable for litigation purposes and also for negotiation purposes. Property photos. In most underwriting files, you'll see photos of the property. Again, it's an important thing if you have a total loss. Property inspection survey report, commercial. Understand that this is typically something that only occurs in a commercial property. So if you have a big commercial property, a hotel, a significant building, typically before coverage is issued, there will be a property inspection survey and report. As I'll show you from examples that I've had in some big cases that I've been successful in, those property inspection surveys or reports are extremely valuable. Especially, as you know, the insurance companies always like to bring in their engineers, and if they don't want to pay for a significant loss, what do they want to say? Oh, this was pre-existing. This was prior to the loss. This is an issue with poor maintenance, ordinary wear and tear. These property inspection survey reports that are within the underwriting file will destroy any of those claims. Income reports. In some insurance policies that are issued, they get periodic, they'll do basic audits of the finances of the company. They do that in underwriting in order to determine the premiums on the policy. So some policies, the premiums will be determined by income reports that are generated by the company, and they'll audit the insured on a periodic basis. This can become extremely important if you have a business income claim or a business interruption claim. Insurance applications and renewals for residential and commercial policies. Again, these become potentially critical if there's an issue that the insurance company tries to bring up and tries to void coverage. Premium payments. This is another one that is extremely critical if there's an attempt by the insurance company wrongly to try to void coverage. Okay, this is just kind of an example of what I want to be able to show you is how the underwriting file and the claim file together, when you put them together, tell a story that helps you with your claim. And understand that this, what I'm talking about is not just for the attorneys in the office, but is specifically geared towards the public adjusters here. Because in certain circumstances, you should be demanding these things from the insurance company. And if the insurance company refuses to provide those to you, it becomes an issue regarding material misrepresentation or concealment by the insurance company. So this is just a sample of an inspection survey report. You have a date of survey, 9/22/2016. This is involving a case that I have, and this inspection report became a critical piece of evidence that resulted in a very significant settlement. As you see, I took a snapshot of the picture. This is a basically 400,000 square foot warehouse that had a 400,000 square foot rubber roof on top of it. And the rubber roof became a major wind claim at some point. Now, what's important in the inspection report is it includes the roof age, repair dates. The roof was installed in 2008, and it had been repaired in 2016. And also, on the bottom it says account roof opinion based upon results of survey. It's somewhat misleading, but, and we'll see later on, there was a section of the building that was set to be demolished that's down at the bottom. It was a separate type of building that was connected to the warehouse. That had been noted in the inspection survey as in poor condition and was supposed to be removed. The remainder of the building and the remainder of the roof is what's documented as being in good condition. As you see, the narrative report that's in there explains that section of the building was slated for demolition. It was just a small section at the bottom of the building that was slated for demolition, and that was what was reported as poor. The remainder of the building was the warehouse with the approximate 400,000 square foot roof, and explains the inspection report regarding the roof, and explains a little bit about the nature of the roof, and also indicates that the roof covering it was a membrane that was redone in 2008 and is in good condition. So, that was part of the underwriting file that was part of this particular claim. Let's talk about the claim file. The claim file will include such thing as claim notes, that either goes by the name claim notes, claim log, claim diary. Every insurance company may have a different name for it. But think of it as this. I like calling it claim diary because I think of it as what you would consider like someone's diary. And that's the way the insurance company handles it. It's just a note of all the communications, every entry that goes in regarding the claim. So if an insurance adjuster makes a phone call to a PA or to an insured, it's required by their claim handling guidelines to be noted in a claim log, claim notes, or claim diary. Another thing that you need to understand about these claim notes that are input, so it's who the audience is. A lot of times, this claim file or these claim notes are a means by which the claims adjuster who's handling the file is going to communicate to a supervisor so that they can maintain supervision of the file. So what's interesting about that is, and I don't know why this occurs, but it seems to be that a lot of these insurance adjusters don't realize that their notes that they're writing to their supervisors are going to be discoverable during the litigation process, and these claim notes are pretty much the diary that I use to frame the narrative of the case that I'm presenting against the insurance company, because they have some really interesting things you'll find in there. And we'll go through that a little bit of some examples of interesting things I found in claim files. The next part is claim correspondence. So everything that goes to and from the insurance adjuster is part of the claim file. So it's somewhat critical for you to understand as PAs. When Tina talked about being professional, when Cal talked about being professional, it is absolutely critical that your communications be professional. Why is that? Because they're going to be noted in the claim notes, and there's going to be copies in the claim file. And the last thing in the world you want to have happen is for you to be called to task because of improper or poor communications with the insurance company. One thing that one of my favorite quotes I like to use is from the movie Jerry Maguire. Help me help you. I say that to my clients all the time. I say it to my co-counsel all the time. And that's the approach that the PA should have in handling the claim when communicating to the insurance company. I'm here to help you. Help me help you. If there's something that you don't have, let me know and I'll go get it. If there's something that you need in order to process this claim, let me know and I will get it. You're there to be the spokesperson for the insured. The last thing you want to be is belligerent, to refuse to provide things, because at the end of the day, if that insured lose their claim because you didn't cooperate or follow the policy and the duties under the policy, then not only will the insured potentially lose their claim, that you will potentially be sued by your insured. Photos and videos of property and damages will be in the claim file. Claim estimates will be in the claim file. Claim-related reports. Okay, so we go to the claim notes. And this was an important part of the same case that I was talking about and why these claim notes were so important. We have the claim notes from the very date of the loss. We have wind damage, 3 sections of 400,000 square foot roof. Membrane blew off in one area, straight line winds. And what was very interesting about this case, there was a huge, huge section of roof that the entire rubber roof and the substrate got lifted off the roof and thrown onto the street below. So very significant windstorm, very significant wind gusts to have been able to do that. Furthermore, the insured had pictures and videos of this rubber roof billowing and blowing in the wind. All of that was provided to either the insurance adjuster or actually the independent adjuster that came on site. So the insured at that point, it's in the notes, was preparing a plan to put up temporary repairs. So you had this 400,000 square foot rubber roof that had one entire huge section that was lifted off the roof and thrown onto the ground. There were wind damage and holes throughout this roof. The insured was preparing to put a mitigation process in place. And the insurance adjuster who had handled the claim had originally agreed to mitigation only in the area where the insured's processing was taking place. So they had a huge amount of loss that required mitigation. We had a rubber roof on a warehouse. We had an insured who had a business that required the entire processes that were taking place. They were recycling refractory materials from a steel mill. And it was required to be dry. It could not get wet. The insurance company knew that. And the insurance adjuster approved of a repair of a small section in mitigation. The insured went back to get a plan for an entire process of mitigation for all the holes that were there. But ultimately what happened, the adjuster approved only one thing and then delayed the claim for another 4 months before addressing the rest of the mitigation. And we have some pictures in the claim file. And what's interesting about this is these photos were taken by the independent adjuster, and they show big sections of the roof, rubber roof being torn up, big holes in there, gaping holes that needed to be attended to. And they also showed where the roof had lifted up and the fasteners were poking up into the roof, the rubber roof itself. What's even more interesting about it is these photos were taken after the first part of mitigation had been completed and while the insurance company was delaying this claim for 4 months. All of these pictures show that. Okay. So initially, in this case, a PA wasn't involved, but a PA got involved later on. And then the insurance company, after the PA came aboard, and the PA informed the insurance company, look, this is much bigger claim than you think. This entire roof needs to be replaced. It's completely shot. And so the insurance company hired a building consultant, and I'm sure you probably have heard the guy's name before, Ray Pollock. He presents himself as an unbiased umpire. What was interesting is that everything that Mr. Pollock was telling the insurance adjuster about how he was going to manage this claim got into the claim notes. So he indicates that he believes the PA's estimate was $2.4 million for the replacement of the entire roof and then the substrate beneath it. And he says in his notes, or in his report to the adjuster, that he thinks $2.4 million is out of line and that a full replacement of a roof of that size would only be about $400,000. What was interesting about it is, at the time, the adjuster had an estimate from 2 of its own contractors for 1/6 of that roof, and their estimate was over $300,000 for just 1/6 of the roof, and not including the substrate. So that's where he starts off with. He also has some notes about he doesn't think that, oh, this whole roof is damaged. You had people up there on the roof, and we're gonna plan, explaining to him how he's gonna plan it out. Well, anyway, they finally get an inspection on it. The loss took place approximately, I think it was 8 months prior to the inspection. The building consultant gets on the roof, and as you can see from the notes, he's in panic. First thing he says to the adjuster, that he needs to disprove everything that is being claimed and will need more info. The roof deck is soft. We'll need a pre-condition report and find out if there are previous losses. He's determined at this point that this entire roof is shot, exactly like the public adjuster had explained to him. Tons of investigation to be done. PA is going to submit a claim for $2.5 million. That Ray, he's such a great guy, he's going to cut it. Then we go into further notes from him. Oh, this roof is in terrible condition. This was prior to the wind event. He's concerned, the insured will say, that this happened during a policy period because this roof had been insured by that same insurer for a period of 11 years straight. He went in there and got some Google Earth photos. Lo and behold, there's a picture of damage to the roof in 2016. Not coincidentally, the underwriting file reported that the roof was installed in 2008 and had repairs in 2016. Again, he thinks that this is an old roof, that they're just trying to get a new roof. He uses 2 weather service data and found no major windstorms. No major windstorms. It blew off an entire huge section of this roof and threw it onto the ground. There's videos and pictures of the roof blowing in the wind. Again, going down there. Concerned about appraisal. This is a coverage issue. It can't go to appraisal. This is old damage. It's not appraisable. So what do? They get their engineer. The engineer, our opinion is the roofing system, EPDM roofing system on this building as it existed on the date of the wind event had surpassed its life expectancy. The roof was shot before the windstorm even occurred. It is our opinion the roof was poorly designed and constructed. A properly designed and constructed roof system would not have been adversely affected by wind speeds that occurred during that event. Interestingly enough, the adjuster who had photos, who had the property inspection report, none of that went to the engineer. I wonder why. Again, it is our opinion that this roof has been poorly maintained. Past areas of roof membrane displacement were not repaired immediately after they occurred. Holes within the roof have not all been repaired. So this shows you we go from a roof inspection that was performed by the insurance carrier, and it was done just a few months prior to this loss, where the roof was inspected in its entirety, determined to be in good condition, to be well maintained, to we have this catastrophic loss that the insurance company does not properly respond to. As a result of that, the roof remained open to the elements for a period of 4 months after the loss. And as a result of that, the roof is gone. So we went from a case where the insurance company didn't want to pay anything to, after taking depositions of the adjuster, Rule 30b-6 deposition of the underwriter, taking depositions of the building consultant, Mr. Pollock, the case resolved itself. So I want to give you some examples, too, in other circumstances where the underwriting file became very critical in a case. And this one is a case that I'm mediating shortly, but the underwriting file revealed that the insurer completed a full replacement cost estimate on a residence less than 3 weeks before a fire totally rendered it a total loss. And the premiums and policy limits were based upon that. 3 weeks prior to loss, the insurance company determined that the replacement cost of that property, if it was completely destroyed, was $343,000. Total loss 3 weeks later. The adjuster completed a replacement cost estimate of what? $163,000. Another case that I have, in this case settled, and it was a big settlement. After the client's fire destroyed his residence, the insurer denied the claim based upon a claimed misrepresentation when the policy was issued. What had happened is the insured, this was a phoned-in policy, and he had a section of his house that had not been, the siding had not been completed. And he reported to them that they asked him how long it would take to get completed. He said about 6 months. And they issued the policy for him. Within that 6-month period, there was a fire and it was a total loss. And so the insurance company later on denied the claim and attempted to void the policy, claiming that there was a material misrepresentation when the policy issue, and therefore the policy is void. The problem with that is that the insurer continued to bill the insured and receive payment from the insured for more than a year after it had learned that the siding had not been replaced. That was in the underwriting file. As a result of that, the insurance company thought they were getting out of this case on summary judgment, and they lost. And the reason being is the court determined, as a matter of law, the insurance company waived the right to void coverage because when there is a claim that a policy is void, understand that there are ways in which a policy may be void based upon a material misrepresentational, but it is voidable. It is not void. It is voidable at the determination of the insurer. But that determination has to be made. The insurer can't continue to renew policies. It can't continue to bill and receive premium payments from the insured, and then try to void coverage thereafter. Another circumstance, insurer claims that the property is underinsured and a co-insurance penalty applies. The underwriting file shows that the client obtained the exact insurance coverage required by the insurer based upon its own replacement cost calculation at the time that coverage was issued. Big examples from the claim file. These are from cases that I've dealt with. The insurer in this case delayed a fire claim, misrepresenting that the fire was still under investigation for several months. The claim notes and claim file reflected that investigation was included 2 weeks after the loss, and coverage was confirmed at that point, and the adjuster continued to misrepresent that the claim was still under investigation for 4 months in order to continue delaying the claim. Another case where insured suffered a total fire loss that was later denied upon a purported intentional act exclusion. The claim file and notes showed that important evidence was misrepresented and concealed in order to support a fraudulent arson report. And what's interesting about this and other cases, I've seen books out there that you'll see like medicinal remedies that doctors don't want you to see, or secret things that so-and-so doesn't want you to see. That's the way it is with insurance companies. In litigating in cases, I can generally tell how good my case is by whether, one, the insurance company aggressively defends the case, and two, how aggressively they refuse to provide their claim files or their underwriting files. It tells me, in most circumstances, that they know that what's in there is not going to help them. Another thing that the claim file shows is that the adjuster received all the photos and documentary support for our claim and just disregarded it. The claim file will show all the internal discussions by the adjuster and the supervisors. One case that I just recently settled, I had a really nice quote in the claim file where the adjuster noted to somebody else that the insured should have picked a better insurance company to insure his loss because we just don't have the stomach for such big risks. They did, and they had a really good stomach to pay settlement in that case, too. The claim file will show misrepresentations made by the adjuster. And it's funny because a lot of people think, bad faith is hard to find. It's hard to find misrepresentations by the adjuster. They're really easy to find when you get the claim file, especially misrepresentation of policy terms and conditions. Most of these adjusters have absolutely no idea what they're even talking about and will often misquote their own policies. The claim file is the best source for showing breach of contract and bad faith. Okay, so this is an important thing. Attorneys have fights over, a lot of times the insurance attorneys will fight over the underwriting file. It's a fight that, it's a fairly level playing field with attorneys. Claim file materials, generally it's not so much a fight. Sometimes they will. I can tell you, I had one case where it was a case that ended up settling. It was a bad faith case, and it had the fictitious and fraudulent arson report. It literally, so when I sent out my discovery request, I got a response back from the attorney for the insurer that basically claimed that all the, it was a type of insurance adjuster that farms out everything. So he had a different property guy, he had a personal property contents company that estimated, different building guy that estimated. He had, their cause and origin person. So anyway, they claimed that that was all work product. And so they didn't produce anything. And my typical response would be to just file a motion to compel with the court. But they had in their letter indicated that that they reasonably concluded that litigation would commence. It was like shortly after the claim was even made, within like less than a month. So I did a bunch of 30B6 depositions, and from those 30B6 depositions, I got testimony that I then used for a motion to compel and a motion for sanctions. And what ultimately happened in the case is that the court ordered them to produce all their contractors for a deposition at their expense. So between Mr. Hargrove, Attorney Hargrove, who co-counseled with me on this case, we did probably 11 or 12 depositions at the insurance company's expense over a 1-week period. And by the time we got to the end of it, we got the white flag from the head of litigation from the insurance company. So things that you should request as a PA. Always request a certified copy of the policy up front. Do not rely on what the insured has in their possession, as it's often incomplete. The certified policy is the foundation for good faith handling of the claim. Always demand it up front, and always follow up with it, because you're blind without your certified policy. And I wouldn't rely on the insured's policy, because there may be endorsements that you don't have. The insured may have their original policy, and there may be 15 endorsements that have been added since then. You don't know until you have a certified policy. If the adjuster claims that the property is underinsured and a co-insurance penalty applies, always request a copy of the replacement cost estimate to determine policy limits. So then you can diffuse that. If you have a potential co-insurance penalty, it's hard for the insurance company to argue that the insured should be penalized because the insurance company told them to buy a certain amount of coverage. If there is an issue regarding pre-existing damage, ordinary wear and tear, maintenance, et cetera, with respect to a commercial policy, request a copy of the inspection surveyor report for underwriting purposes. So in the situation that we had with the that I showed you with the building that had the inspection report, the adjuster in that case was told by the insured up front that they had just did an inspection report. And he continually asked for it on a regular basis, and they refused to provide it. But just because the insurance company refuses to provide it, that helps us as attorneys on the other end with bad faith, with breach of contract, because it shows that the insurance company is attempting to deceive the insured. With a homeowner's policy, always request copies of the property provided at underwriting. Always request copies of expert reports, such as cause and origin reports, engineering reports, independent adjuster reports, if you are aware of their involvement in the handling of the claim. Now, just because the insurance company refuses to provide those to you, again, be persistent. You are setting up this claim for litigation. Always request copies of photos, videos, and estimates of the insured handling the claim. Understand, cooperation goes both ways. You as a public adjuster are taking the position, help me help you. The insurance company has that same duty of cooperation. And the more you show that you're being cooperative with the insurance company, the worse it makes the adjusters look who are not cooperating. Okay. Kind of ran through that really quickly to get us out of here. Does anybody have any questions, thoughts, concerns?
That's amazing.
Yes.
In a state like Oklahoma, you still need pattern and practice briefly to explain.
I'm sorry.
Pattern and practice. It's one thing to have one claim that has bad faith on it, but you got to show pattern and practice in some states. How do you do that?
Well, that's where you get the claim handling guidelines and you go into training. So that's more of for the attorneys in proving their case and proving their bad faith. From the adjuster's perspective, and this is what I was trying to give you an overview, from the adjuster's perspective, the insurance company is going to say that this stuff is work product or they'll refuse to provide certain things, but you're going to give them a basis. There's a reason. And even in the litigation of these things, insurance companies will often, when I first send a request for an underwriting file, well, how is that reasonably related to the case that's pending? Well, okay, we have your engineer is claiming that this is a result of poor maintenance. You guys have inspection reports, replacement cost estimates, all of these things. And what I'm suggesting to you is you as the adjuster, you're setting the foundation for the litigation. And by requesting these things and having a reasonable basis for it, you're setting them up for the breach of contract and the bad faith. Anyone else? Questions? Yes, sir.
Requesting an underwriting file. We're never going to get it, but how do you go about doing that?
As a PA, you'll never get an underwriting file. Attorneys, we fight over these things. Now, if we're forced to fight over them, I've always been successful in getting them. You're not going to get the file. And what I'm suggesting to you in my materials is here are the things that you have a rational, reasonable basis for getting. These are parts of the file that you're going to be looking for. Now, if another thing is, and I don't know that, you're running across any cases where the insurance company is claiming coverage being voided, because usually what happens is, if the insurance company is going to do that, they're going to send a reservation of rights letter, they're going to do an EUO, and then you're going to get an attorney involved. Have you had some yourself where they've claimed that coverage was void as a result of something?
We actually spoke about it. You got a mutual reservation of rights. We were with the mutual. Remember the hotel in Wisconsin?
Okay.
We talked about the reservation of rights. We'll have to speak more about that, but basically that's what we've been receiving lately.
Well, if they're claiming that something did or did not occur in the underwriting process, that there's some misrepresentation in the application process, by all means, you have a basis for requesting a copy of any application materials if they're going to rely upon that in making a claim decision.
Sure.
Anyone else? Okay.
Errors, how about errors in omission? Errors in omission, I know you didn't mention anything on that.
Are you talking about with the agent?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're underinsured, part of it.
Okay, so
Do you use something like that as well?
am I what?
Do you handle those kind of cases?
Absolutely. So are you saying that we have an issue where there's underinsurance because a replacement cost estimate was done improperly by an agent? Well, so what typically happens, if there's a situation like that where, say, your insured is insured up to $6 million and then they do a replacement cost estimate later on that's 12, and they're saying that there's huge co-insurance penalty applied, I would certainly request a copy of the replacement cost estimate that was included in the file. And as a result of that, sometimes the reason for that is that the agent screwed it up. Maybe the agent didn't put the right square footage, or there's some reason. Sometimes it's the insured's fault as well. But if there's a co-insurance issue, I would by all means request that. And if there's a situation where the agent screwed it up, I would include that agent in the lawsuit. No matter what, if I don't have access to the underwriting file, I think as a matter of course, we should always include, as attorneys, we should always include the agent if there's an issue with co-insurance. Now, sometimes it's a result of the insured giving them the wrong information. Under those circumstances, it's all on the insured. All right, anything else, or should we adjourn? Misrepresentations on what? They misrepresented that they had a shake roof?
The age of the roof, but having worked on the agency side of stuff before, I know that a lot of times the homeowner never even talks to the agent. If they're
understand if there is an issue regarding a reservation of rights based upon a misrepresentation. One, you're going to want to have documentation of what the claimed misrepresentation is. It's not enough just for them to say, oh, there's a misrepresentation. Well, you don't know, without looking at the application, you don't know what was asked and what was stated. And if the agent misrepresented it, then that might be an issue with the agent as well. And then the other question would be, with these, did the insurance company do any inspection themselves? Do they have photos of it that shows the condition of it, so forth? All right. Are we ready to wrap up? Okay.
Thank you. Nice job.
Thanks.